Hey, Balatro Beanie Weenies, Beans Hambone here, and I'm coming at you with something new, something fresh. I'm talking about the Balatro Multiplayer Mod. Have you heard of it? How have I not heard of this? Who didn't message me? Huh? What are we doing here? Developed by the very talented Virtualized, this mod allows you to go head-to-head with other Balatro players.
Woo!
All right.
Good game.
Good game.
The Balatro Multiplayer Discord is awesome. It's got all the instructions on how to install the mod and anything else you need to make the mod work. It's also great in how it allows you to join a matchmaking queue, and then you're matched up with another player. Once you're done with the game, the leaderboards update based on your wins and losses, so you can see how you're ranked with the other players that are playing. It's very cool. I've never seen a Discord server so dynamic. It's really fun. I'll include links in the description below for joining the server so you're able to download the mod. I myself found it easy to download, and within 10 minutes I was ready to go. So how does Balatro Multiplayer work? How do you make Balatro head-to-head, you know? Well, let me tell you. Standard rules work like this. By default, each player is playing the same seed and the same deck, so they are seeing the same shops and packs that you see.
This is an interesting first shot. There's some choices here.
All right, this is good.
So when you go into a match, you're playing Balatro normally. You're going into a small blind, getting to a shop, doing your shopping, going to a big blind, seeing a shop, doing what you're doing, and now instead of a boss blind, you're actually going to face your opponent, your nemesis. And the player who scores the most points wins. If you lose a life. You can also lose a life if you don't meet the required score for the small or big blind. So by default, you start with 5 lives. So if you lose, you go down to 4 lives. Once you lose all your lives, you lose the game, and the other player wins. It's fast-paced and feels very strategic, allowing for a lot of ways to gain an edge on your opponent. The latest release also comes with some custom jokers and cards that allow you to affect the way the other person plays. For example, the joker Hanging Bad debuffs you and your opponent's first card scored, making it a great strategy if you suspect your opponent is playing Hanging Chad. There's also a planet card called Asteroid, which when played, will downgrade the opponent's most leveled up hand by 1 level.
Take this.
Time to play the game!
First thing, glass cards are king. It seems like glass cards are very powerful in multiplayer. You want to get them early and you want to get them often. Just having those 2x trigger at the right time can be the difference between winning or losing a match. Prioritize glass cards, prioritize steel cards, even early. You know, in normal Balatro, I'm very rarely making glass cards early, right? That's something I start doing in late game. But now it's like, if I can put a glass card on a card that I use to score a hand, I'm doing it. Anything that can multiply your score can be huge in multiplayer. Go big or go home. Intentionally losing a round. Sometimes I intentionally lose to my opponent to gain an edge. You know, maybe early game, I decide, you know what? I'm not going to buy a scoring joker. I'm going to prioritize this econ joker, or I'm going to prioritize saving for interest to get to my interest cap, instead of doing anything I can to make sure I win the first round. You also receive money on losing a life, which can help you get set up faster. And I do that because, you know, I think slow and steady can win the race. I think getting your economy online and having a strong economy is a really important part in winning matches with multiplayer. Am I going for a win here, or am I going for the long run? There's different times where it's like, I'm going to go hard on this round, or maybe I don't use all my glass cards right now, and maybe I'll sacrifice losing a life in order to really prepare for my final attacks. There's also a mechanic in the game when you're going head to head that's pretty interesting. So say your opponent has like 10,000 points, but they have like 3 hands remaining. And you think, I'm not going to win this one. It might be good to play fast because if you don't reach that 10,000 score limit and you go through all your hands, the round will immediately end. And by immediately ending, saying they have like 3 hands remaining, that can hurt them. Like if they have scaling jokers, now they're not scaling their jokers for those last 3 hands. If they have gold cards that they haven't found yet, or blue seals, those aren't getting triggered. So there's strategy and also just ending the round as fast as possible. Keep that in mind. That could be a strategy. There's also a joker that they have. One of the multiplayer jokers is literally called speedrun. And if you play all your hands faster than the other player, your score will be tripled. Your end score will be tripled. So if you're able to play really fast and have a decent score and then triple that score, it could prove fruitful for you. Wild cards are now more viable. I mean, usually I wouldn't play wild cards because there's so many bosses in the normal game of Balatro that can debuff wild cards. So often I found like it was more of a hindrance, so I tend to avoid them. Well, now we're not playing with bosses. We're playing against an opponent, so you don't have to worry about cards being debuffed. You can make wild cards. You can lean heavily into one suit. You can grab Pareidolia without the fear of the plant lurking in the dark. The world is your oyster. Get at it. Go get it. Get out of here. Card retriggering. Card retriggering jokers can be very strong. Of course, you can have like the photo Chad combo, photograph and hanging Chad, classic. But even finding a Dusk or a Seltzer can be a great addition to your arsenal. Retriggering glass cards and having Fibonacci could be a deadly combo. I've won a great match where I got an early hack and I said, okay, I'm doing hack. And I started just, building flush houses with 5s and 3s and made them glass and made some steel. And it proved to be a win in the end. So really consider those card retriggering, even a Seltzer. Like, okay, maybe you won't be able to have the Seltzer the whole game, but for 2 or 3 rounds, you might be able to knock some lives out. And that's kind of the name of the game, is like, okay, well, I'm ready to battle, and this is going to get me through at least two rounds where I'm taking them out, and maybe by that time you find a more stable way of retriggering those cards or a stronger build. So consider it. There's also other jokers that in the normal game I would rarely take, but in multiplayer, they become pretty handy. Take Loyalty card, for example. After playing 5 hands, you then will score your next hand doing a ×4, right? You're able to strategically line up the amount of hands remaining, so when you face off your opponent, you can trigger your Loyalty card. Loyalty card can be very powerful in a multiplayer game. Yes, it can be tricky to play and to line up, but it's worth the time to secure yourself a ×4 on a high scoring hand. Skipping can be really interesting too. Like say you have Ancient Joker and you can destroy them, and your Ancient Joker lands on clubs and you're very strong in clubs. You may be skipping to keep that Ancient Joker primed and ready to go for the battle against the other opponent, so you can score as many points as possible. Overall, there's a lot to learn about Balatro Multiplayer. It's a very new thing, or at least new to me. I think it's been out for a couple months. I'm really excited to keep playing this and seeing how it evolves. I mean, I started making a video about Balatro Multiplayer, and then midway through, a new update came out, which added the ability to play any deck, any stake. They added those multiplayer cards, and it was like a completely new type of game, right? And it's just really exciting to see this mod evolve. I also have found, playing on the Balatro Multiplayer Discord server, everyone's very nice. I have had great matches with people eager to talk about their builds, It's just a lot of fun. So I have found the whole experience very positive, and it's just it's a cool thing. That's all for now. If you haven't, like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Stay safe, feel better, and I'll see you at the next one. Beans Hambone signing out. See you later. Get the out of here, Beans.